Top trucks in America were disqualified early in the competition. Talking about Gravedigger and USA 1, but Armstrong, the owner of USA 1, Everett Jasmer, has already gone on record as saying he feels as though his truck and driver got robbed that night. What about it?
That's exactly what he feels. He says, we deserve the win. Scott Stevens did not deserve the win. Scott Stevens comes back and says, hey, it's the same track. We all had to run on it. I just drove a better race than your driver, Rod Litzow, and that's all there is to it.
Of course, Scott Stevens drives King Krunch, and he got his first win of 1989. But what about this track? Is it that rough?
The track is different than it was in the past. The reason being it's 3 jumps this year, Richard, not 2 jumps, so they cannot get that awesome speed they've been getting in Nashville. They're getting a lot of air. But it all starts right on the starting line with the angle of the first ramp. The drivers say they do not have enough space between the first ramp and the second ramp to actually get the truck straight. That's giving them all problems, and that's what makes it a driver's track.
And, of course, the top guns are here, including the hometown hero, talking about David Morris and Equalizer. Going to have to keep our eye on him. And, oh, I forgot about the other big story from last week. That's a story that Armstrong, for the first time in over a year, you missed a prediction.
Yeah, but my guy was disqualified. He'll be back tonight. Let's see how it's going to turn out.
We're going to get the action underway. It's straight ahead on ESPN.
Powertrax and the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, today's Chevy trucks.
City tonight. It's the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge from the Nashville Motor Raceway. And Army, I guess you might say tonight is a night of revenge for some of the guys.
Well, some of the guys, they definitely have blood in their eyes because of the track. The track itself is long in length, but you have to drive it as it's 2 short tracks. You have to attack the first part of the course and be straight for the final part of the course. This young man seems to have figured it out as he has the rest of the field covered, and the field, including USA 1, by 0.2 of a second.
He is our quick qualifier. Scott Stevens gets by run. Then it's Mad Dog against Wild Hair. Following that, we're going to be seeing the Nightlife up against Yosemite Sam. Then the Equalizer, a hometown boy that is dangerous, David Morris, right here from Nashville, taking on the awesome Gravedigger of Dennis Anderson. Barely Tame will come out next against a relatively newcomer on the block. That is Tough Enough with Pablo Cruz. Then it's Master of Disaster against the Barbarian, Illinois, taking on Minnesota in that race. And then we're going to have the USA 1, Rowdy Rod Litzow, disqualified last week, up against the hometown Ford, no problem. And those are the pairings for the first round as Scott Stevens takes it down. That's really all he had to do was get down the track to make his bye run.
Well, the bye run, Stevens earned it by virtue of having quick qualifying time, and all he did was use that run, the easy pass through, just to check the track out. He won last week, and he said one of the reasons he won is he kept an eye on the track and noticed how it was changing during the night. Speaking of changing during the night, we've got a change in drivers as Mad Dog's going to be pulling up in one lane, but we've got a new driver in the other lane, Richard.
Well, these are really brother trucks, Wild Hair against Mad Dog, but that is a newcomer, rookie Kurt Fisher, now driving Wild Hair, John BREEN in the Mad Dog.
Kurt Fisher's new to the monster truck game. He's been around mud racing for many times. He will not advance in this round. John BREEN takes the Mad Dog in front of a sellout crowd at Nashville Raceway into that next round of elimination.
Army, are you sure this is racing? Those guys look very, very slow coming down this track.
I will not say they're slow. I say they're cautious. Remember, I said a moment ago you have to drive this long track that has 3 jumps like it's 2 short tracks. You've got to be straight after the second set of cars in order to line up for the final set of cars where the finish line is located.
But now we've got a battle of a Ford against a Chevrolet. Chuck Poore and Yosemite Sam out of Jonas Rich, North Carolina against Dave Wysorek, the Nightlife Chevy out of Nebraska.
The Yosemite Sam truck seems to be dialed in on this track. We know this last week. His weight, his horsepower, his gear ratio work perfect on this track. And keep in mind, the condition of the track is going to play a big factor before this thing's over tonight.
And there you see it, the Ford Yosemite Sam with Sam Poore gets the, I'm going to call it an upset win over the Nightlife.
Yeah, it would be considered an upset because Wysorek runs this whole circuit with it. Yosemite Sam comes from out of nowhere, but he's going to the next round.
Well, get ready for our first real barn-burning race of the night. Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger will be facing David Morris and the Equalizer. Morris right here from outside Nashville, Tennessee. That is his wife, Nancy. And an interesting story about how they met and how David got involved in monster truck racing.
David called me and asked me if I'd like to go to the monster truck race. And this was our first date last year, and at the race he informed me that he was going to start driving a monster truck. It was kind of hard to believe, but 2 months later he started driving a monster truck.
Nancy, you have to be a little bit apprehensive when you watch your husband drive one of these vehicles. What goes through your mind, for an example, when he flipped end over end in Richmond, Virginia?
I was terrified when he flipped. I was a little relieved when I saw him come out of the truck and he was okay, but the scene kept going through my mind of his flip, and when they even dragged the truck off the track, the damage was just amazing, and it was unreal that he was okay.
David, we were right there when you did flip. I noticed something you did, and we brought it to the people's attention on television. When you came out of the truck, the first thing you did was walk over and wave to an area where we knew that she was sitting. Is that the reason you did that, to let her know you were okay?
Yeah, that's exactly the reason I did that, to let her and everyone else know that I was fine.
And now let's see if he's going to be fine. As Nancy says, a silent prayer. They're at the starting line. It's Gravedigger and Equalizer, two of the best in the country.
Richard, is going to be the battle of the kamikazes on this one. Watch for an all-out run, both sides of the track. Like you say, this is the first time. Oh, we've got a major problem on the starting line. The Gravedigger, he's not going to back out a bit. But the Equalizer, your current national points leader and your hometown boy, he did not move.
Boy, how disappointing for David Morris. All of his family on hand outside Nashville. They've come to see the races tonight, and he sits on the starting line going absolutely nowhere. But good news for the Gravedigger fans. Gravedigger advances on into the quarterfinal round of action. We're going to go trackside to check out exactly what happened with David's truck.
You talk about the pressure building right now up in the national points chase, and the truck didn't move at all on the starting line. What happened?
Died deader than a hammer. We've been having trouble with the engine up here at this race, and when I called on it just then, it just went deader than a doornail.
It seems like that it was a jetting problem to me, but if anybody ought to be able to figure out how to make an engine run in Nashville, Tennessee, it should be you guys. This is exactly where you live.
Well, that's right. Motor's been running fine all year long. You just decided to act up here.
Well, we are only halfway through the first round of action. Still to come, it's Barely Tame, Tough Enough, Master Disaster, Barbarian, USA 1, and No Problem. Back with all the action straight ahead on Powertrax and ESPN. Richard Leek and Army Armstrong about halfway through the first round of competition. Coming out next is going to be Randy Spanier, the Barely Tame Ford. He's out of Albany, Minnesota, taking on a real rookie on this circuit. As a matter of fact, tonight is only the 7th time he has been in a monster truck, talking about Pablo Cruz, the 28-year-old out of Phoenix, Arizona, and the Tough Enough Ford.
Well, Richard, Pablo's new to this sport, and we're glad to have him here because he's definitely a comer in the sport, but he's not new to motorsports. He was involved in mud racing for many years. Tough Enough has a reputation in that sport. He's trying to establish himself with a strong reputation in this sport, but believe me, when you jump up to this type of competition, you better be tough. And Pablo, look at this. This kid out of Arizona, definitely playing hardball. Great run. Look, he's looking smoother than anybody on this 3-jump track.
And I'll tell you what, with this tough track, being smooth is very important, isn't it?
Well, you got to be in line for the last jump. The first half of the course is just something you have to go over the finish lines at the end. And look at Cruz. He's relatively straight. The truck is leaning left and right, but it's going straight.